Okay, let's continue. We continue from there. So we continue from where we had stopped. Sorry for that hiccup. Then we can go to the classification of rocks. We have classification of rocks, and rocks can be classified into three forms. Number one, they can be classified geologically. Number two, they can be classified chemically. And number three, they can be classified according to their physical properties. They can be classified according to their physical properties. So, even before we go to that, that is classification of natural stones. Stones can also be classified as natural or artificial. An example of natural stone is one that is mined in quarry. For example, I know you know a lot of quarries that we have in Kenya. Korir, where do we mine stones in Kenya? One place where we mine stones in Kenya?
We have a place in Kericho called Kendawa.
We have Kendawa. We also have a place. We also have a famous place called. We have a stone that we call Darugo. We also mine stones in Thika. And those are natural stones. They are gotten directly from the earth surface. The only thing that is done to them is dressing and shaping and dressing. That's only what is done to them. But there are other stones that are artificial, and those ones are manufactured in the factory or naturally they are synthesized. An example is paving blocks, and a good example of paving blocks is cabros, and I know you have seen cabros wherever you have been walking around in the institution. Then natural stones can now be classified further into using geological formation, physical characteristics, and chemical composition. And according to that classification, you can see from that slide, you can see there is a chart showing classification. Number one, we have rocks. They are classified geologically, they are classified physically, and they are classified chemically. Then we'll go further and be able to classify stones geologically, as you can see from the next slide. But before we go to geological classification, let's go first to physical classification. According to physical classification, stones can be classified as stratified, unstratified, or foliated. And I will be able to tell you as we go on what are some of the characteristics of stratified rocks, what are some of the characteristics of unstratified rocks, and what are some of the characteristics of foliated rocks. But just to mention, stratified rocks are those rocks that can be broken in stratification. They have stratifications that can be able to break into. In short, they are in layers. They can be able to be broken in layers. And most of the stratified rocks are sedimentary rocks, because we know sedimentary rocks are formed in layers, as you'll be able to see from the next in our future discussions. So we have said physical classification of rocks classifies rocks into three major forms. Stratified, we have said they have stratifications or layers. Unstratified, they have no layers. And foliated, they break into different directions once broken, most especially during harvesting. That's just a brief for us to know. Then we have the other classification that we had said, and we had said that is chemical classification. And according to chemical classification, rocks are classified into argillaceous rocks, number two, siliceous rocks, and we have calcareous rocks. And these are majorly just the compositions of they are just the composition of the material which they are made of. For example, calcareous rocks, siliceous siliceous rocks and argillaceous rocks. Every one of them has a different composition. For example, you'll be able to see from our future discussions that siliceous rocks have and contain a lot of silica, and we'll be able to see that from our future discussions. We'll be able to see that from our future discussions. We had also said that stones can be classified into different methods, that is geologically and geologically. Rocks are classified into the following methods. You may not see that in your slides, but let me give it to you. They have sedimentary rocks, we have igneous rocks, and we have metamorphic rocks. Number one, sedimentary rocks are rocks that are made from breakage and damage of other rocks. They are carried by agents of weathering and they settle down in layers called sediments, and after a period of consolidation and accumulation and the action of pressure, they become rocks and they are called sedimentary rocks. And if you get to understand very well, you realize that sedimentary, we have said in a previous discussion when studying physical classification, we have said stratified rocks are majorly sedimentary rocks. Then we have metamorphic rocks. Metamorphic rocks, they are formed from the action of liquid pressures, earth movement, and movement of the earth. Other four rocks are changed and metamorphosed by action of liquid pressures and movement of the earth to form metamorphic rocks. Then we have igneous rocks. Igneous rocks are those rocks that are formed because of eruptions of the earth's surface, solidification of magma from the earth's surface. When it cools down either in the earth's surface or above the earth's surface, they form what we call them? They form igneous rocks. When they are formed in the earth's surface, they are called intrusive igneous rocks, as you'll be able to see. And yes, from our future discussions, we'll be able to give the characteristics of each rocks. Igneous rocks, sedimentary rocks, and metamorphic rocks. I think we'll come to a close at that point today. I don't know whether any one of you asks a question that they can be able to ask before we proceed. Consolata, do you have any question?
No, I don't have a question.
Have you understood?
Yes, I've understood.
Good. Dan? Do you have a question? Okay. Then
No.
If there's no question, I think we can come to a close by asking what are the general classification of rocks. I can ask a few questions, then we can close the class. What are the general classification of rocks? General classification of rocks. Classified into Consolata.
The classification of rocks are geological, under physical, and the chemical classifications.
Okay, thank you so much. And what have we said? Rocks are classified geologically. When we classify rocks geologically, what types of rocks do we have?
We have the natural and the artificial rocks.
Yeah, natural and artificial rocks, that is the broad classification of rocks. Okay, I can see you have understood. Thank you so much for attending the class. Let's meet next time and see you. You can leave the class at your own pleasure.